All right, friends, welcome another Friday in here, and let's go all out. I'm Citizen Jones. Today on the program, Governor El-Rufai insists bandits, I should say, must be wiped out. He says they have lost rights to live. Just as General Abdulsalami Abubakar laments that security challenges have led to 80,000 deaths. Did you hear that? And close to 3 million internally displaced persons, IDPs. COVID-19 still in the news. The cases of COVID have risen up to 163,581, just as Nigeria has recorded 83 new cases. And later on, Buhari appoints new governing councils for University of Ibadan, UI, OAU, Obafemi Awolowo University, and Unilag, and others. He approves licenses for 20 private universities. I'm hanging out with Babajide Kolade Otitoju. Jide, welcome back.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I rather like this. This is blue.
Just as I like yours.
Yeah, okay.
It's a conspiracy to wear blue.
Oh, come on. The odd man out seems to be Tunde Abaton. Today I haven't seen you in moons.
It's the mood of Nigeria.
Yeah. Jide, that's a proud Abeokuta boy. Yes, welcome back. Okay, we'll start on a rather sad note. Dr. Mahmoud Tukur, who was President Muhammadu Buhari's best friend, one of his best friends, just passed, and so we say we're sorry to the family of Dr. Mahmoud Tukur, and we can only hope Mr. President will bear the loss like a man.
Yes,
Tukur Mohammed.
Yes, after his well-known nephew is the closest to after Maman Daura, is the closest to the president, and he was his Minister of Commerce and Industry when Buhari was military head of state.
Yeah,
and he was instrumental to the setting up of the Buhari organization, TBO. That group actually brought Buhari into politics. They came together, a good number of them are still around. The current Minister of Education, who worked with Buhari as his chief of staff for some time. That's Adamu was a member of that group. This woman as well, the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, was also a member of the group. So Mahmoud Tukur was the one who rallied the group and ensured that they convinced Buhari to step into politics. So it's a massive loss to the president.
Oh, yeah. And
he was also the vice chancellor of the Bayero University after the school was renamed.
Wow.
And he's an author who wrote a number of books. You talk about some Nigerian leaders who never wrote a book. You cannot talk about this man as one of such people.
Right. The argument will always be there.
Yes, people need to write. You cannot be president of Nigeria for some time and not be able to say, okay, when I was president, these were the things that happened. Yes, not simply to put your speeches together. You need to write a book, your opinion and factual analysis of what transpired.
Today, Dr. Mahmoud Tukur may not have written letters like Obasanjo, your Obasanjo, our Obasanjo, but he was no less a great man. From what I've heard.
Because of, he was seen as one of the members of the inner caucus when Buhari was in power. I could remember that was
the first time.
First time in 1984, Onolapo Shodaye was the Minister for Finance. I think the man played a prominent role in steering that particular government. And the moment he was started as being a member of the so-called
Kaduna Mafia. Was there a mafia? Sorry.
Well, anyway.
Jide, was there a mafia?
Yes, certainly.
So-called Kaduna Mafia.
Is the mafia still alive?
Well, I don't know, because politics have, dynamics of Nigerian politics have since changed, since Buhari and Babangida came to power. Because Babangida,
a good number of them are now living in Abuja, not Kaduna.
Babangida distracted a lot of things in Nigerian politics. So Mahmoud Tukur was actually a prominent factor. He was in the same league with Umaru Diko and Co. Even though he was a leftist, more or less a centrist, unlike Dr. Bala Usman, late too, who was a leftist from the Ahmadu Bello University. I think he left Ahmadu Bello University to become the Minister for Commerce and Industry
at the time.
Under General Ibrahim Mahmoud Buhari then. May his soul rest in perfect way. I think he played his own role during that 20-month government.
And up till his death, he was part of the very strong allies of the president, who were also listed amongst the so-called cabal at this time. Remember, we had a program where we discussed about the powerful people around the president, and I listed him among members of the cabal, because it's the influence that you wield that will make people see you as a member of the cabal, the big decision makers in the administration.
So simply, there is always a cabal, C-A-B-A-L.
Yes, the kitchen cabinet of a president is seen as a cabal. Let us not forget that was younger brother to the former national chairman of the PDP, Babangida Tukur.
Oh, really?
Yes, the billionaire Babangida Tukur. Yes,
now I know.
They came from the same loins.
MD of
MPA. His remains have been taken to Yola for burial.
Okay. According to Muslim rites.
Yes.
Well, Dr. Mahmoud Tukur, good night. You were here, you came, you saw, you conquered. Death, gentlemen, we must admit,
it's a death.
Is a part of life. It's not the opposite.
It's a necessary end.
It's a debt that
it will come when it will come.
It's a debt that we all owe, and we must pay when the time comes.
Not be today. So let's go straight to what's living. You know, to our first story of the evening, you know, the Yorubas have a saying which loosely translates to mean the day we see evil is the day the evil disappears on the ground. Ijo tabari Ibi, something like that. Now, Governor El-Rufai of Kaduna appears determined to call the bluff of kidnappers. He said yesterday that the brigands have lost their right to life under our constitution as amended and must be wiped out. Meanwhile, former head of state General Abdulsalami Abubakar mourns the security challenges in the country, leading to some 80,000 deaths, leaving close to about 3 million internally displaced persons, IDPs. A very, very dire situation indeed.
It is very dire. Very dire. And I agree with the governor of Kaduna State that it's about time we dealt decisively with these undesirable elements. We cannot continue to treat them with kid gloves. The governor said clearly that the security forces should go after them in the forest that they occupy. So it's not only Boko Haram that is occupying Nigerian territory, although sometimes we deceive ourselves that they don't occupy any Nigerian territory. Boko Haram occupies territories in our country. Bandits also occupy territories in our country. It's an affront. It's utter disrespect to the state for brigands to hold on to territories within our country. You can imagine, there was a video that went viral of one bandit who was saying all kinds of rubbish, that they were abandoned and then they had to take to criminality. The forest that
abandoned what or who by?
Everyone who just wants to play the victim. You are not the victim. You are visiting death and sorrow on Nigerians, but you are trying to play the victim. So this same fellow, even the forest where he was interviewed was mentioned. I've said repeatedly, we know where they are. We know the forest that they occupy. They have different camps. A governor came out to tell us that there are up to 30,000 bandits in his state alone.
Oh yes. Oh, yes.
Maybe that was even a conservative figure. That's more than a quarter of the strength of the Nigerian army. Because that's the problem. And here we are not going to where they are to visit tremendous volume of violence on them. So the governor is saying, encouraging security forces to go to those forests where they are hiding and deal decisively with them. That is the only solution.
I've not been to much of the north, outside of Abuja and a bit of Kano. I hear the land mass is very mighty there, so possible for anything to happen.
Yes, you look at a state like, if you were to use Borno State that I'm very familiar with, for example. There are local governments in Borno State bigger than a state in Nigeria. Magumeri local government is bigger than the biggest state in the southeast.
Wow.
Kukawa local government, where you have Baga and all these places. Kukawa local government is bigger than the biggest state in the southeast. So, and those are just 2 local governments. And there are other big local governments like Guzamala and the rest of them. So there is tremendous space for them to hide.
To roam wild.
Especially in the rainy season, when the weeds get overgrown, it provides ample foliage for them to hide. So, but of course, we can attack them in the air. We have no excuse, I repeat, we have no excuse not to take out these people. Because they've harassed us enough, they've killed Nigerian people enough, and it's about time we dealt decisively with them.
Tony, here's a Governor El-Rufai who has become exasperated. It's a tall order. I'm looking at the troops following the governor's orders now.
Well, I think what we have to admit is that, first of all, I think our capacity to estimate the threat that we face is the fundamental factor. Before now, maybe probably 6 months ago, the governments at all levels in Nigeria, they never properly estimate the amount of threat we are facing from these people. But now that Governor Rufai and the governor of Zamfara State, who admitted that he has probably 30,000 roaming freely. And remember too that Said Abubakar, the Sultan of Sokoto, said that in Sokoto State now, they just go to anywhere and harass you and ask you to bring money. I have a friend he's a journalist who lives in Minna State. He told me 2 weeks ago that whenever it is harvest time in Niger State, whenever it is harvest time in Niger State, after you have done your harvesting, they will just go and kidnap the wives of the farmers. Why do they kidnap them? Because they are looking for a ransom. When they kidnap your wife, you want to release your wife to them, and they know you have money, and most of them don't bank.
This is on info.
It's based on information. Anyway, information is easy to gather there. I think with the new services that we have now, I think Nigeria should do a proper appraisal of the extent of the power of the bandits, because except of course you know their essence and their number, you cannot properly plan for them. If a state can account for 30,000, let us say conservatively, some other in the southern, because banditry is now not limited to the north. There are variants of banditry too that are in the south here, by people who are armed robbers. 412 is banditry in any way, even though it's banditry by other means. So I think our inability to properly estimate the level of our problem will not determine whether we can solve that problem. It is good that Governor El-Rufai is coming out, but the problem we have now is that, do we have the security forces? Do we have the number to be able to properly engage these people, like Ajide said, and take the battle to them? Because we have to take the battle to their house. We have a lot, Sambisa Forest occupies about 7 states in Nigeria. So if you can take the battle to Sambisa Forest, which we know used to be their original base, but now, beside Boko Haram, that is prevalent in the north, we have banditry that is peculiar to each of the states in Nigeria. So other 18 states or 16 states in the north, they have issue of banditry. So have we been able to estimate them before we ask the security forces to go into battle? So I think that should be the first thing. And I think recently the service chief did a tour of all parts of Nigeria, the 6 political. So I think able to estimate the number of challenges those governors are having. And I would have expected that 2 weeks after their tour, they should have been able to estimate the level of challenges we have, to know and to inform the government whether we have the men and the material to confront men and material.
Yeah.
To confront these people. Because except of course we have the men and material, like Jesus said, we cannot take the battle to them.
Yeah.
If Zamfara State has 30,000, and what is the size of Nigerian forces?
And a former head of state, General Abu Salami Abubakar, is angered by the fact that Nigerians are IDPs inside their country.
Yes.
As many as 80,000 people have lost their lives.
Yes, and more and more people are becoming IDPs within the country. Many people underestimate the extent of banditry in Katsina, the home state of the president, and the fact that a lot of people there are in IDP camps. Many people don't know that in Benue State, people are displaced by criminal headsmen years ago. Their communities are still not safe enough for them to go back home. So there are IDPs in Benue. And with Ghana's boys still killing people. This week...
That's Tewase.
Tewase.
Brother was killed by an ambush.
Yes. Yeah. With Ghana's boys still killing people and burning communities, you will have more IDPs. There are public office holders who cannot even stay in their local governments anymore. They've had to flee because they could come anytime to kill people.
Yeah.
And Boko Haram, anytime they attack communities, especially the Shekau faction, they will not just loot people's food, they will set their houses ablaze. Now, when you set people's houses ablaze, where do they go? Okay. They become a burden onto government, they become IDPs. So, the peculiar nature of the terror that Boko Haram represents has ensured that we have IDP camps all over Borno State and outside of Borno State. We still have Nigerian IDPs in Cameroon. As we speak, when Boko Haram attacks local government like Kalabalge, where you have the big town, Ran, is very close to Cameroon. The people simply flee into Cameroon. You go to Chad, there are IDPs from Nigeria in Chad. In fact, the governor had a meeting with the president of Chad the other day. There are IDPs in Niger Republic, not just in one town. In Niger Republic, Nigerian IDPs. Some of them have been there since 2014. So it's so bad that the day Governor Zulum went there to share money and bales of cotton to the women, 4 persons were trampled to death because no Nigerian official had visited them to make them happy. So they were overjoyed and they were struggling. Everyone wanted to get a piece of the action. In the stampede, about 4 of them died. There are so many. A lot of those communities in Borno North, especially within that Kukawa local government, a lot of them are living inside Niger Republic. Places Abadam, for example. Abadam local government, the bulk of the people have left. They are now living inside Niger Republic. A lot of those communities, if not all of them, people are not living in them. I'm talking about Abadam local government. People are not living in them. People are not living in Guzamala local government. They fled to places like Chad and Cameroon, and Niger Republic. So it's a big problem that we have within our country and outside of our country. Yet we are not officially at war. But what these people represent is more than warfare to us, and that's why we must defeat them.
Otherwise, the time is now, Tunde. So we sum everything as we take it home. Governor El-Rufai has given the marching orders to the security folks. General Abubakar is not happy. So who is?
Well, I think we thank God that people like that are coming out to actually admit, because lack of admittance is another problem. Now that we have admitted, I think there's trouble in this country, because during the Civil War, the estimated number of people who died, they are not more than 2 million. And we cannot, probably after the Civil War, probably a year or 2 after, we never had the case of any internally displaced. Nigeria was able to solve that problem then. But now we are in an internal war, not a civil war, internal civil strife. we have 3 million that are internally displaced people. Benue State, they keep on recording figure every day. Even in Ogun State, some people in Ogun State relocated to Benin. Wow. 5,000 people.
Wow.
In Yuwa area. That is, they are part of the 3 million that were displaced. So the government has to actually come out. They don't need any other figure or conviction than what we already have. And except of course we do this thing, you can imagine if Nigeria is facing an external aggression. This is internal aggression. And we cannot contain, we have about 3 million man-made internal aggression that is due to lack of other vision or being proactive about solving the problem. So I think the government has to come out really, and like the information minister said yesterday, and I hope that he was speaking seriously, talking seriously, that Nigeria is in deep.
Something like the Yoruba would say,
please save us, so we are in serious problem. I think
it's significant that we are admitting the extent of the problem, because we used to paper over it and make it look like no.
It's significant that we are accepting the fact
that means we are determined now to solve the problem.
We are near the problem now.
Because a problem identified is a problem solved to an extent.
Otherwise, the day we identify evil, that day we say good night.
No, when we identify evil, we then confront it.
You confront it
head on. So, but to be thinking that, it's the activities of enemies of government, or Nigerian media hates, they hate good news, they like bad news. Not that kind of illiterate thinking.
In my state, Akwa Ibom, in a synodom, there's wahala there as we speak. So maybe that's for another day. People are displaced
in a lot of places.
Sometimes
over even boundary adjustment issues that have lingered for so long,
which
people
could have been
killed.
Solved. You know. All right. So we have seen. Zebediah says, Zebediah says he has seen 99. Who will be 100? We have seen 99 as a people.
Let him try to see the 100. It's not a bad thing. Come on to see the 100.
All right, to our next story. You know, the last may not have been heard of the COVID-19 pandemic. As a matter of fact, the cases, including 83 reported new ones, bring the total recorded number of cases to 163,581. It tells you and I that we are a long way from safety. Happily, we can now report that Lagos State government has commenced the administration of the AstraZeneca vaccine in the state. In the same manner, vaccination has also started in Cross River State, not forgetting Jide's Kogi State. We have no choice.
Yes.
We have no choice.
I'm happy that the vaccine was taken to my state.
Even though the governor refused to admit.
You know that you've not heard me saying that Kogi is not my state. I will let Nigerians know that.
Told them.
The traditional ruler, the first-class traditional ruler from my local government, the Ijumu local government, when I visited home in December.
What is this stool called?
Olujumo. Olujumo came to my house with the traditional ruler of my hometown. And my dad was seated. My dad had begged me for long that I should stop saying I'm not from the state. Then the two traditional rulers now passed an instruction.
Injunction, if you like.
That from today, we don't want to hear you go on that program and say you are from Ekiti anymore. And I had to prostrate, and there and then I said, okay, I promised them that I will no longer say I'm not from Kogi State. But I also appealed to people who work with the governor of the state that this time we want improvement.
Yeah.
So that I can proudly claim that indeed I'm from the state. Now it gives me joy.
Yeah. To see
that people of Kogi State, led by the commissioners in that administration, were among the first to take the COVID-19 vaccination. The commissioners led the way. Wow. They took it. People have said all kinds of things that they know what they are doing, this and that. But the good thing is that in Kogi State, people have begun taking the injection, led by members of the cabinet of Governor Yahaya. So that settles it.
Oh, yeah.
For me, no more controversy. If the commissioner can step forward and take the vaccine for a virus that initially they claimed did not exist. So it says a lot of things. It also says that across board, we are doing our best to defeat this pandemic that has taken so many lives. In the US, 556,509 people already dead. India, 165,547 dead. South Africa, close to us here, 53,173 dead. So, for us, God has been so kind. God has really been so kind to us that we do not have this kind of figures. Because if it goes so bad in our country, we do not have the health facilities to contain it, to save the lives of our people. But here we are. In the last 1 week, no reported death.
Yeah.
You know, despite
especially in Lagos, no reported death.
Yes, Lagos is the heartbeat of it. So if we can deal with it decisively in Lagos, then we are on the way to solving the problem.
Today, and good news from Cross River, like Kogi governor, who said, Cross River governor said, and a professor of environmental sciences didn't believe in this virus. But people in Cross River, they cannot be deceived anymore.
Well, I think we are coming to the realization that pretense is not the best for us as a people. We have to face the problem headlong. And just like the previous week, I went to Ogun State with the intention of taking my vaccine. And when I got there, I was told that they have finished the first round of dose that was sent to them from Ogun State, and that until the doctor go back there, that was when it was suspended. But I was surprised that 4 days later, when I got to Ifako Ijayi, I just got my own order for 2 hours. People just go there, they identify you, you give them your identity, and they give you, and it was a seamless exercise. So
you know they feel pain?
No, I didn't feel. No, maybe after 48 hours, and the thing has disappeared. So I think we should give kudos to our government for being responsive enough, and that we should also appeal to people to not to say that it is for the elite. It is not for the elite. We should all try in our possible best way to help the government and help ourselves by taking this vaccine and taking all the necessary precautions. Because I believe that from the way we live, if we can vaccinate at least 10% of our population or 20%, the thing will be stopped. The remaining percentage, there may not be need for them.
Okay.
Especially for the young ones. But for people 40 and above.
Unfortunately, we have a youth budge.
But the budge is about 60% of our population. So I think the government should, all hands should be on deck.
So it bears repeating that COVID-19 is real. I beg. It doesn't stop your prayers, but it is real. If the vaccine gets to your doorstep, take it. Let's go on this break and come back. Please stay. Okay, let's take the case of the COVID-19 home. Tunde, we hear there are variants, new variants of the COVID. We've been hearing so many things in the past, but that should not deter us.
Well, I think what we have to know is that until maybe the variants are coming out after the government have succeeded in vaccinating a lot of people. Because, due to age and health background, different health backgrounds, until you take a particular prescription, you may never know how it's going to work. For instance, some people have claimed that when they took it, they were hungry. I never had any such symptoms. So for those countries...
Are you suggesting make person chop belly food before you go?
Well, anyway, for you to take any injection, anyway, you don't have to take any injection on empty stomach. You have to take something. But what we are saying now is that for Nigeria, I think we should begin to intensify the campaign more so that we can be able to devise a particular approach or suitable approach should in case we should have new variants. We have been particularly lucky. Nigeria is God's own country. Because for the kind of health facilities we have, if we should have 4 new variants in Nigeria, God knows what will happen. But God has been so kind to us. So for the one we have now, we should properly manage it, and the people should join the government in managing this.
And there's a new campaign by Germany, the German government,
that they should
to say, they are beginning to take the the vaccine again? In Germany.
I think the cases which made those governments rejecting the funds was, I think I would describe it as isolated cases. And in everything, like in science, there's also politics. There's also international politics in science. You just have to know that. So it's not impossible that international politics has crept into the. Look at Russia now. Look at Soviet Union. You see, they are not likely to take the Astra vaccine because they have their own. They have their own. So international politics too, you cannot also leave that one out. So like I said, in our own country now, we have not been able to develop anyone that is acceptable to international standard. Let us manage our health what we have very well, so that we can be able to stay within.
And I hear that two times you take the vaccine, so you've taken one, you're waiting for the second one.
Maybe 3 months or 2 months.
Yeah. But then let's look at the you say culture, religion, blah blah blah, of so many folks.
Yes, I've had some pastors try to ridicule other pastors who are preaching and urging people to take the vaccine, and I've had people lie to Nigerians that, look, this vaccine will take the lives of our people, this and that. But
that is targeted at the black population.
Yes, the black population and all that rubbish. The president took the jab in the full glare of Nigerians, and he was accompanied by his deputy, Osinbajo. That's showing leadership at a time when it mattered the most. Show leadership. Lead Nigerians in taking the jab, in getting some form of protection against this the virus. And that's what they did. They didn't think that, what some people are saying, that this vaccine is meant to kill
decimated population,
Africans, kill black people. They didn't think that there could be a tinge of reality in that false sentiment. They took it. And once you saw your president taking it, at that old age, and he's not dead. The VP too, the VP is approaching his mid-60s now. He took it, and he's been fine since then. So why would I believe the nonsense that this is meant to take people's lives and all that? And you've seen people who took it and they didn't die. I can tell you,
you also heard that the one sent to Africa is a different shade.
Well,
it's all empty gas. It's all rubbish that people are saying. Look, every drug has one form of side effect or another. Now, in this case, people are talking about blood clots. That it could perhaps be one of the side effects. But when you look at the quantum of people who have received this vaccine and the very negligible number that suffered blood clot as a result, you then look at the law of averages and ask yourself that, can one even really say that, look, blood clot is a direct result of vaccination for COVID? No. Now, every virus that spreads rapidly has the capacity to evolve
over
time. And that's why it's not exactly surprising that we have variants of this COVID-19 like B117, B1351 and the rest of them. But the vaccines and the safety protocols that are already have been instituted will ultimately address this problem and ensure that those new variants do not constitute
any health.
It will constitute, well, but at least we can keep it in check. If everyone maintains those safety protocols and people get vaccinated, they will have some form of protection against this rapidly mutating virus.
Today, there's also the talk about going to town a lot more. And so we're looking at the town crier system. it takes us back to the National Orientation Agency.
Yes.
Please.
Well, I think before we can go into that, we must also ensure that we have enough, each of the health centers have taken enough deliveries. Because by the time you adopt that system, that is when you are going to get to the real people who live in Nigeria. I want to believe that those people who are taking it now are the elite, those who have access to that thing, who live in municipal. By the time you adopt that system, the health system that we have, the number of facilities we have, may not be able to take care of what we have. I think we should first of all finish with this layer. Maybe 3 months time, 6 months time, when the government has enough facility.
You are telling me, in other words, that it's goodbye to things like dispensaries, which was it first or second stage?
Dispensary is first stage. After dispensary, then health center.
Yeah.
After health center,
dispensaries, health centers, and then hospitals and so on.
I think the dispensary, I don't know, depends on the quantity we have in the country today, because Nigeria is supposed to have 774 primary health centers all over the country.
Yeah.
That was the idea.
One per
by
each local
Professor Oluko
government. Yeah.
And it was supposed to reduce the pressure on general hospitals and teaching hospitals. But now you see people having malaria going to teaching hospitals. So I think before we can go to that level, we should ensure that there's adequate provision, because there will be surge, whether we like it or not. The surge will be much that maybe it is then that we are also going to know our real population. Because I'm telling you, the 3 million doses we have now, thank God that a multinational corporation are beginning to donate for Nigeria. We have 200 million people. Let us assume that 60% of the population are youths from probably 25 downward.
Yeah.
Then the remaining 30% of the population, which is about 30 million, up. So we should have something that is close to this before we begin to proclaim. Because when we go to the rural areas that are not captured, we may not have what it takes. Or else we have a multiplication of the...
Jide, as we take it home, the contagion is still here.
Yes, very much. And you see, we still have 8,000 active infections in our country. And these are estimates. There is something treacherous about statistics. It's not usually the accurate representation of reality.
But a fair representation.
In some cases, not even fair. In some cases, not even fair. When you are looking at statistics, in our own case, the capacity to test on a wholesome level is not there. So, when you see states suppressing testing and all that, at the end of the day, what you have is not an accurate gauge of the extent of infection. Because a lot of states are reluctant to even test in the first place. Meanwhile, we are supposed to be able to test maybe 3% of our population. If not
3% of 200 million will be...
Yes, we've not got close to that at all. No state in Nigeria has been able to do that. It's just so. If we have 8,000 active infections, it's just some form of projection or estimation of the true state of things. And USA has 30 million confirmed cases already. Next to USA is India, that has just overtaken Russia and Italy with 12.6 million cases. So in our own case,
Africa is still, specifically Nigeria is still...
Meanwhile, Africa was the continent that people thought...
Even the World Health Organization said
this thing was killing most
devastated.
Many people,
you know, because of our poor health facilities and all that. So, but it has pleased God to now allow the doomsday prophecy of the World Health Organization to come to pass in our continent, and we have kept this thing in check. Nigeria, 163,581 cases. Still very low, but we must try to keep it at that level so that we do not have a very big problem on our hands.
All right, and so the last word on it for today is COVID is still here. It pays to obey the protocols. Get a jab. Does not kill. Get a jab. Okay, then to our Last story for the day. President Muhammadu Buhari has approved the dissolution and constitution at the same time of the governing councils of 5 federal universities in the country. The oldest tertiary institution in the country, the University of Ibadan, UI, University of Lagos, UNILAG, Obafemi Awolowo University, OAU Ife, University of Port Harcourt, Uniport, and the Maritime University in Delta State are affected. In the same vein, 2020 new private university licenses have been approved. The institutions are to run for an initial 3 years, even as their growth are monitored by the relevant ministry. Now, a breakdown shows that 9 of the new universities are located in the south, 2 in the north central, I should say, 2 in the southeast, 5 in the northwest, 1 in the southwest. The beautiful thing about learning, Tunde, is that no one can take it away from you.
Yep. Well, I think with these new universities, it means we now have about 120 private universities in Nigeria. Before now, we used to have between 90 and 100. So what it means is that in spite of all these things, nobody can come out boldly to say that we have met that.
Go on.
We are able to meet the target. At the end of every year, you will still discover that 150,000 or so are still left out of university education. Anyway, we should remember also that the capacity of these universities, they are related. But for instance, I know the 5 top universities in Nigeria, like OAU, so they can't take more than probably 5,000 students per year, looking at their capacity. When you add these 20 universities, you have to know that private universities cost a lot of money. So I think what I think the government should do is that, in as much as we believe that university education should be a tripartite between the mission, between the private sector and the federal government, I think we should extend the capacity of our government universities, of the federal government universities and state universities, to take in more students. Because for licensing new private universities does not necessarily translate to admitting more qualified students into the school. I think we are making that mistake because it's not so easy now to even maintain a single word in the university, talk less of private universities. So licensing 15 new private universities does not necessarily mean they are taking university to the doorstep of the aspiring Nigerian student who is qualified. I think we should know, yes, it's an opportunity for people to be entrepreneurs, but the total number of intakes of these universities cannot be more than 10,000. I am telling you.
All told. Because it's only those who can afford.
It's only those who can afford it.
The huge fees.
Especially the average of them will charge probably
some private universities take as much as 2 million
a session,
depending on the cost.
So when you license 20 million,
so many people can pay that.
It does not translate to admitting more students. And every year, last year, JAMB, about 1 million candidates wrote JAMB. Out of those candidates, including all the private universities, all those who were admitted, they are now up to 300,000. I am telling you, including 57 federal government universities and state universities and 100 private universities that we have in Nigeria. All of them cannot admit 300,000.
Where is the problem?
Which means
where is the problem?
The problem is that there is no facility and there is no space.
Have you not seen a picture that went viral of lecture going on in one of the big universities in our country? People are sitting on the floor. In some cases, there are no
on the windows.
Yeah, so people sit, and just take lectures in a very unconducive.
15 minutes after your lecture or 10 minutes, you are not going to get
in environments that are less than conducive. I've seen some private universities here: James Hope University, Lagos, North University, Kachia, Kaduna, Capital City University, Kano.
Top Faith is in Uyo, Akwa Ibom.
Yes, Top Faith. Mpatak, Akwa Ibom. Maranatha University, Mbidi, Imo. Ave Maria University, Piyanko, Nasarawa. So Thomas Adewumi University, in Kwara, the Claretian University of Nigeria, Nekede.
Not in your state.
Nekede,
Imo. In Kogi.
I've not seen it. Maybe I'll still see it. Annan University, Kwal, Plateau.
Okay.
So, you see, but what makes me happy, the other side of the story, is the fact that the governing boards,
of the
yes, have been constituted. When we had that problem in Unilag.
Oh, yeah.
You know, one of the issues that came up was that the president had been told to constitute governing boards of some universities because it left a big gap in terms of running the universities.
Between the Senate and the...
Yes, so the president was told, in fact, the visitation panel, part of what they recommended was that the president should go ahead and constitute the boards of universities, because you can't leave those universities without the board.
Governing boards,
Vice chancellors cannot run universities alone. That's not the way it is designed, you know. And an individual cannot run the university. It's an environment where democracy plays its big part. So it's a good thing now that even Unilag, after the resolution of the problem and the VC, Ogundikpe, has been cleared of any wrongdoing and we are allowed to go on with its work, we now have a new governing board led by Senator Teju Osho, who was the chairman of the Senate Committee on Health. Fantastic Nigeria.
And an alumnus of that university.
Yes, it's been suggested all along, but it's not a guarantee that there will be peace. Because the former man, Babala King, was an alumnus of the school.
Yeah.
But he ran the place like a sergeant major. And they complain that, look, you are being dictatorial. You can't run a university like this.
This is a school.
Yes, you cannot run a university like this. But at the end of the day, the things literally collapsed on his head, and the visitor of the university, the president, had to step in. And at the end of the day, seeing that the sword of Damocles was dangling, he quickly took the right decision by stepping aside.
Throwing the towel.
Yes, he threw the towel, and ultimately, the committee of VCs, former VCs, and the rest of them, they came in, and at the end of the day, the Minister of Education was assisted to take the right decision, in my view, given that even the Senate, they were overwhelmingly with the VC, took the right decision to allow the VC to continue with his work, cleared of any wrongdoing, and allowed to proceed with his work. So we hope that Senator Teju Osho's
intervention.
Yes, his time will be at Unilag will be talked about in glowing terms, just like this Baba in Ekiti.
Other schools involved.
This Baba in Ekiti, the big lawyer, Afe Babalola. You know, his time at Unilag, people still talk glowingly about it because of infrastructure development and things that he attracted to that school. So we hope that these guys, all of them, will play a big part. Because I've seen Uniport, Senator Andrew Chendu is the chairman.
Yeah.
OAU has Chief Oscar Udoji. We all know. Yes, the one who had the football club. Udoji.
Yeah, I know.
Then Chief Odige Oyegun. Oyegun, na John Oyegun, vote for him. That was his song back then. He's the chairman for UI. That's a significant. The president has given him a fresh appointment. Then, of course, the Nigerian Maritime University in Delta State has Dr. Elias Cousin as chairman.
Okay. Yeah, but today, let's for once talk about the quality of certificates. Well, I think it is also a part of it.
Well, I think one of the things that the new governing board for all these schools have to do is that they have to reenact, I would say reenactment, because UI used to be the center of learning in Africa. Like the other time we were talking about from Middle East, from UK, from other countries. They take patients.
Oh, you didn't remember that University of Ibadan teaching hospital was
one of the best.
These people have an opportunity of changing the bad narrative about universities. Let them raise the standard.
Not even one university in Nigeria comes among the first.
Among the first 20. It's unfortunate.
In Africa, forget about
the decline had been incremental.
Yeah, it has been.
We didn't do something. Yes, we didn't do something about it.
I think the new government board should sit up and
they should play less politics. Politics is killing us.
Look at what happened at UI. People,
show of shame.
They wanted the Muslim to be vice chancellor of a university. When
did religion become a factor?
I don't know when we say so to allow religion to determine or asking people to put on something. I see that one will add to the content in your brain. I think our leaders have gone a lot of things wrong. And those who are introducing religion to this country, especially in education, I think they have to have.
They should be ashamed of themselves.
They should be ashamed of themselves because it does not. The hood does not make the monk. If you like, we are telling hijab. If you like, be a monk. It does not make you a professor. It does not make you productive. And in the new world that we are in now, the future is technology. It's not about any other thing.
It's not about the way you dress.
Well, you know, before I came here, I was discussing with my, I would call it a pastor and a colleague, and he was even telling me the number of people watching program, especially the RCCG, when the COVID started, is more than those who go into camp. You cannot believe it. The number of people who are adherents, who are tuning into their program whenever the program goes, is more than 10,000.
It means they have their way.
Don't advertise it.
So what we are saying is that technology has changed everything.
Now on your phone you can watch a football match on your phone. You can also watch Baba Adeboye preaching on your phone. It's much more convenient.
But except that you're advertising.
The 21st century is about technology. It's not about
agree.
So let them put on their thinking cap and change the narrative about our universities.
Because it is possible.
Because it is possible. How come when somebody makes 2-1 in UI or even third class, when it gets to US, you will become a first class student?
Yes.
It means the environment here is suppressing learning and education. Look at the administration of the new president in America. Look at about 4 Nigerians. Most of them started from here. Most of them started from this place. So let these people know that you're in the 21st century. Let them put politics aside.
You see, when we talk about brain drain, you see medical professionals from our country going abroad and excelling. How are they able to excel?
Let me give you an example. In 1998, when Professor Oliko Ransom was doing the brain drain area, he said there was a time he was in Washington, D.C. He went there to address a gathering of doctors. And the first set of medical doctors said that you now have to ask them, have you brought UI or University of Ibadan down here? Because most of the faces he saw there, they were his students in University of Lagos. At the University of Lagos. Have you brought down the University of Lagos down to Washington? That shows the extent of brain drain what we have here.
Okay. So it's a marching order we are giving from this this hangout to the new chairman of the governing boards of universities, the 5 federal, and the 20 new universities we are licensing. We wish them well. We cannot, but wish them well.
Go and excel.
Oh, yeah. The choice is yours. Tunde Abaton, thank you for coming again.
It's a pleasure to be here.
The proud Ogun boy. Jude, thank you.
Yes.
And
studies. Citizenship.
Yeah. No, it's back. I like it. Sorry. I like it. Yeah.
And I say it with all pride.
And if sorry, change
back
you
to
let
my
us know.
state.
Okay, that's it on the hangout for today and the week. Join us on Sunday from 1:30 to 3:30. That's 2 hours for the journalist hangout on that day. You may watch a repeat broadcast of this program at 11. And we're also, this is to tell you, we're also on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I'm Citizen Jones. Bye-bye now.